gearsonballs.co.za. Weekdays 1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Listen, right here in Gearz, Balls Visual Radio. It's always great to have fantastic people in the motoring scene and motor racing scene on our show. Of course, that's what we are all about. And today's no exception. He is rather crazy, does he?
Is he?
Yeah, proper crazy. It is great to have him in the studio. First time here on Balls Visual Radio. Allan-Jon Fenter. How's it going, Alan?
How's it doing, Sasha?
Lekker, man. Great for you to come through here.
No, great. Thank you.
Did you come here in a car or on a motorcycle?
No. I haven't got a license for the road.
A motorcycle?
A motorcycle license, yeah.
Isn't that bizarre?
It's a bit crazy. And
Calvin van der Linde doesn't have a driver's license. Jordan Pepper doesn't have a driver's license. You don't have a motorcycle license.
You know, Sasha, I only got my driver's license when I was 19, but I was driving to school when I was 16, And the only reason I got my license was because when we went to UK, I needed to go from racetrack to racetrack, and there, obviously, you've got to be a little bit more law-abiding than you do in South Africa.
The secrets come out of all of the craziness. Now, listen, you've just come back from participating in what I consider the craziest race in the world, and that, of course, is the Isle of Man TT.
Yeah, Sasha, I went last year, and let's go back. In 2007, I went over, and I started riding in British superbikes, and my teammate was Guy Martin, who, as you know, is quite a good guy around on the roads and things like that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go over because I'd heard of this road race and people asking us about it. And I mean, I know in South Africa, as a South African, everybody just goes fast, but you've never really seen anything like it until you go over there. And I went over as a mechanic, and I said to Guy raced my Superstock bike that year, and I was spannering for him. And I got there and I saw this place, and obviously I met the government and that, and they said to me, would you ever want to do the TT? So being from a South African background where nobody really thinks about the decisions you take, I said to him, I'll do it. I'd like to do it. And at the time, I still thought, it'll never happen. It's talk. And they phoned me up, and I went over again in 2009 to the press launch, and I was tied to a contract with Triumph in the UK, and they didn't really want me riding on the roads.
Okay. Yeah.
So I literally had an agreement with the organisers, and he said to me, anytime you want to ride the TT, just drop me a mail, and I'll organise it. And I came back from England beginning of last year, and I was sat at Sun City, and I was sitting with my girlfriend Dom, and I wasn't doing any racing at the time. And I said to him, what, I wouldn't mind riding TT. So I sent him an SMS as a joke, saying, look, Paul, is that TT ride still available? He said to me, are you serious? I said, yes. He says, I'll phone you in 10 minutes. And then from there, we had a chat. I spoke to the team. He put me in touch with the team. Yeah. And then they sent me the press release. And like I said, I was still at Sun City, so I still had a 2-hour drive back home to go home and say, listen, Mom, Dad, this is what I want to do.
I'm going to do the craziest road race in the world.
Exactly, and this is what's come up. And they sent me the press release. I agreed everything, and then I drove home, and within 10 minutes, people started ringing me saying, listen, well done, I see you riding the TT.
So it was out there already.
Ways. And the press release went straight out. So I rang my old man, and I said, listen, Dad, have you been on Facebook? So he said, no, why? And then it was AJ Fenter to make TT debut in 2013. And in the beginning, I think no one really knew what to say, because I didn't think anybody thought we'd do that, because from where we are, it's something you don't do.
Well, circuit racing is highly dangerous, but street racing is even more dangerous. What was your mom and dad's first sort of reaction?
Well, my dad, I'll give my dad credit. He said to me, look, I know you can ride a motorbike, do what you want to do. Yeah. I think he was more shocked. I don't think he could say anything else, because to be honest, it was done. The deal was done already. Yeah. And my mom went along with the flow, and like amongst people, she was happy about it and that. But I knew every now and then she wasn't too impressed.
Well, listen, it's one of those races, and let's go back to the first time you went there as Guy Martin's sort of helper. When you saw those bikes going along those very narrow streets, basically a hedge on the one side and a brick or rock wall on the other side, you must have sat there and went, Sure, you got to have a lot of belief.
You know, Sasha, it was crazy. There's a place, it's called Bray Hill, you know, and it's just off the start line. And basically, when you come past on a flying lap, you'll go down Bray Hill flat out in 6th gear, and you're normally doing between anything from 270 to 280 k's an hour, you know. And the first night's practice, everyone says when you arrive, go stand at the bottom of Bray Hill, you know. And I went and I stood there, and the first bike came past, and I'll be honest with you, I really, really, really did shit myself. I couldn't believe it. It was mental, you know.
Well, I was going to sit there and say, I mean, there, as confident as you are as a racer, with a tremendous amount of experience, there has to, when you see what these guys are doing and that you are going to be doing that, there's got to be an element of fear.
Well, the more I learn about it, obviously the more, I don't worry, but the more you think about it, you know. And when I first went over, it's easy to agree something. And then I went over beginning of last year. Obviously now everything was done, and I went for the press launch. And a good friend of mine that races at the TT, he won the Supersport race last year, Gary Johnson. He was helping me a little bit, you know, as we go. And we went for a jog, and we ended up jogging down the pit straight. And I hadn't been there for 2 years. Yeah. And I got onto the start line, and I looked down and I went, there's no ways. You know, all these onboard videos and everything I've watched look a lot wider than what this really looks like. You
Exactly.
know? And all that stuck in the back of my head was, I've made a commitment. You know, I'm gonna follow through with it, because at the end of the day, they're human beings riding it. So if they can do it, there's no reason we can't do it. You know.
Sure, exactly.
And in the back of my mind, I mean, a lot of my friends and that back at home, and my parents and everyone, I'll never ever just back down on something. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm scared, but I'm going to ride, you know, because there's no way I'm going to go home and say, listen, Dad, I bottled it. You know, it's not going to happen.
No, sure. I mean, but the whole thing is, when you're sitting and looking at the circuit, I mean, is there a way that you can prepare yourself, besides being physically fit and you know, making sure that you're in very good shape? How do you sit and go about setting up your bike, understanding, listen, this is not one of those where you can, I mean, do you still sit there and say, I'm going full tilt here, exactly, and the problem is if it goes wrong, unfortunately, it can be horribly...
You go splat.
Yeah, it can be horribly, bad.
You know, the thing is, like when you go there for your first year, obviously the Isle of Man government will put a lot into you, you know. Okay. And I went over and I'd done a few laps with one of the guys, the local guys there, and you can drive around in the car. The problem you have though, and I ran into it last year, where I done 6 laps in a car before the time. Now, the thing is, when you go to the TT, it's not like Kyalami or Pekisa, where you're doing a 1 minute 40 lap time. Yeah. You know, it'll take you at least, as a newcomer, maybe 20 minutes.
Per lap.
Per lap. And it's 68, it's about 68 Ks a lap. You know, you got 300 corners, and you can watch onboard videos and you can watch all these things, but the biggest thing I had, you know, when I was driving the car, is I thought, okay, well, I'll make a mark there and I'll turn in off a tree. And you can't do that, because as soon as you start pulling off, you just start accelerating.
You're gone.
And we had to, at the beginning of the week, you have to, for insurance, you've got to do a lap behind a controlled lap. Okay. So they'll give you like an experienced rider that you'll sit behind. And I still went to the guys and I said, you know, who am I going to ride with? Because I know myself racing on a circuit. If someone says, we're going to go slow, you can follow me, 9 times out of 10, I'll just hang on to him. You know, you just hold your breath. It's 2 minutes. And we pulled off, and Keith Amor was riding, he was on a stock standard 600 road bike. Okay. And I was on a Fireblade. And we pulled off, and we started pulling gears, first, second, third. And when we started to get to 5th, 6th gear, they started pulling away, because it's just so fast, you know.
Unbelievable, eh?
And you just forget everything you've ever tried to learn in riding a motorbike. And the only way you start to learn it, I pulled in that lap, and I thought, you know, when I went fast, you go up the mountain mile, and I started pulling big gears where you could see where you're going. And I thought, you know what, this is proper. There's nowhere else in the world where I can legally, with people cheering you on, do 300 k's an hour on a public road.
Mad, eh?
You know? And that, I thought, you know what, I want to do this, but I need to learn it.
And you know what, I think that's the mark of respect that you have to have, number one, for those who have done it so often, and also just for the conditions that you're riding in. Because, as you say, if you're racing any other circuit in the world, you got 12, 15 corners, you know where it is, you know your braking marker. Here you got, as you say, 300 corners. that's very difficult to process in your brain when you're also doing 300 k's an hour.
Yeah, well, they tell you it'll take you at least 5 years to learn the TT.
Is that so?
I bumped into...
If you survive it.
If you survive it, yes. But you've got to... You also can't go out in your first year or even your first 3 years and try and go and bump off all the bushes everywhere, and try and race it. You've got to let it come to you. And I remember coming in often nights where I look at some of the riders at the top, in British Championship, I've raced against them around a racetrack.
Yeah.
And I've beaten them. Now you've come to the roads and the guys absolutely, they make you look stupid, but they've been there. John McGuinness is, he'll tell you, I went to Macau in November with John.
Yeah.
And John still said to me, when you come here, don't rush. This is my 15th year coming here. So you need the experience before you can start going fast.
But I think that's also fantastic to hear, is that, that you guys, as much as you're so competitive when it comes to any kind of racing, this kind of race is somewhere where you sit and say, you know what, we've got to look after each other here.
Yeah, when you ride on the roads, everybody knows the danger. And obviously you have the odd time where close riders do fall off or kill themselves. And even when you go to races like the Northwest 200, where you're on a grid racing, you start 4 abreast and it's a mass start.
Yeah.
When you fly up the inside of someone, it's not like you would around Kyalami, because they know if you clip someone's bar, you either both going to crash or you can't just pick up and run off.
Yeah.
So you've got to have that side of respect for each other.
Exactly.
And everybody knows how hard the challenge is to ride it. It's just riding it safely.
So let's talk about this year's event. You go there, it's your sort of second year of experience on the TT. Did you fulfill what you went out to go and achieve?
Sasha, I went there this year thinking I wanted a replica, okay? And where the replica story came from was last year we got to this road race. So obviously we're learning that this is road racing. And I finished my first race, I finished the second race, and I rode one bike in 3 classes last year.
Okay.
Which is it was a 1000cc Fireblade Honda standard bike, and that was in the Superbike, the Super Stock, and the Senior. Okay. Now the Isle of Man, over the 2 weeks, there's 6 classes that you can race, 6 races. Okay.
All right.
3 of them on the big bike, 2 of them on a 600, and then 1 is the lightweights on a 650.
Okay.
So this year going to the TT, I decided to enter all the classes.
Oh, brilliant.
And it was more also for an understanding of the place, so I can do laps.
Yeah, of course.
Because last year we had practice week and race week, but the conditions hold you back so much where you'll lose a night's practice because of the weather.
Yeah.
Or if it's wet halfway around. And although we're out every night for an hour's only 2 laps if you're lucky. So you want to do as many laps as you can. And I pulled in last year, and my biggest draw card as well was at the end of the senior, it was 6 laps, which is 2 hours of racing.
It's a long time of racing.
Fitness and your mental strength riding around there, it does take it out of you, and your hands and the blisters and all of that. But we went last year, we had a look around, and I came back here, and I've got a personal trainer who comes with me to the racing. He runs the gym here in Edenville, Ultimate Fitness, and we worked from last year until TT this year, just preparing for it,
Incredible.
to understand what we need, and it's weight training and all your morning sessions on the pads and things like that. And this year really, really helped me, because obviously I did 6 races, 6 finishes, and we got the results that we wanted. And when I went last year, we went to the prize giving with a finisher's medal. So when you finish a TT, they give you a medal. And we walked into this prize giving thing, and I saw these little replicas on the stage. And I still said to the guys, what is that? How does that work? And they said, no, well, if you finish within 107% of the leaders, you get a bronze replica. If you finish within 104, you get a silver.
Okay.
And that's all up to second. And then when you win the big one.
Of course.
So I said, look, I don't mean to be selfish or stubborn, but I don't really want a medal. I want one of them. If I knew what that was, we could have gone for it.
Yeah.
So going back this year, I felt I missed out last year, so I really wanted a replica. And the first Superbike race, we struggled a little bit. When I say struggled, we still had a good ride. I still went quicker than last year, and we improved, and it was a happy thing. But from a rider's point of view, we were still trying to get the bike to work the way I wanted to work. We were going down straights, fifth gear, and you were jumping airborne, and you just couldn't keep it straight. You know, it was scaring me. And so we missed a replica in the first race. Then we went out for the first Super Sport race, and I came in and I actually had a good ride and I enjoyed it. And I missed that replica by, I think it was 8 seconds.
Gee whiz.
You know, and we still joked afterwards that we were there, but we didn't make it. You know, it's like leading a race for 10 laps and falling off on the last lap.
Oh,
you
man,
know?
that's tough.
And then, but from then onwards, we just managed to hit replica after replica, and I came back with 4 replicas.
Jeez,
so
that's fantastic.
I was over the moon, you know, but while you're there, you're so focused in doing what you're doing, you don't actually realize where you're at. And now when I come back and I sit down and I see them and I think, you know what, it was worth it. But now I want a silver.
Yeah,
you know,
well, there we go.
Now you want a silver. You've got to up the game every time.
Of course,
you know?
Of course. But listen, I mean, that on its own is a phenomenal achievement. Firstly, just to finish one of the TT races, but I mean, to do all 6 over that period of time, I mean, that's a tremendous amount of, as you say, physical and mental strength, because most of the times when you're doing a circuit race or whatever, you know, you're racing, you know, between 25 and 40 minutes max.
Well, that's a big thing. And some races over there, like the lightweight race in the morning, you're out at 10 o'clock for a 3-lap lightweight race, which is about an hour and a half. And then you get an hour break and you go straight into a 2-hour 6-lap race,
Sure.
which is, we worked it out. It's basically like racing from here to Volcom and back, you know, but flat out over jumps and little turns and that. And in the road racing circles, like now from the TT, because it's such a beating of a race, you know, you've got to trust your team. You know, your pit stops, and you got to make sure that the bike doesn't miss a beat, because you have times where from all the jumps and bumps, things break and they come loose, and you have failures and you get tired, you make a silly mistake. Or, I mean, the senior, I nearly hit a pheasant on the second lap and I still saw it in the road, and the next lap I came round and it hit another guy on the head. You know, so there's so many factors it throws at you, and just to finish a TT is a good job, well done for the whole team.
Yeah, of course.
You know, you've got to include the whole team, because if it's not for them in the pit stops and prepping the bikes and making sure everything goes wrong, you know, well, everything goes right.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you've got to thank everyone.
Jeez, it's unbelievable. Now, if you're just joining us, of course, it's Balls Visual Radio. We've got Allan-Jon Venter, who's just finished his 2nd year of TT. He came back with 4 replicas, and he's just explained that exactly how it is. So, I mean, that on its own is an amazing achievement. Now you say, you know, you'd like to get up to that silver, of course. So that means you're going to commit yourself to TT for the foreseeable future. But what other racing are you doing? Besides, I mean, because this is just fantastic. But I mean, where else can people see Allan-Jon Venter?
Well, Sasha, the problem with the TT is it sucks you in. So, providing all goes well for me, you know, I've got a long-term plan for the TT, you know, to return back there, and
of course,
I want to expand it and get it a little bit more known in South Africa, you know, because at the minute I'm the only South African that's been there. I know Clinton went over and Clinton had a good ride around, but we want to. You're arriving on grids with 10 Australians and like 100 British riders. So for us to get more South Africans involved, you know, we build an army.
That would be great.
But the TT is only once a year. So in the meantime, I've got a lot of things going on back here in South Africa, where I've got a Triumph from Triumph South Africa, you know, that we're racing in this new Super 600 series. Yeah. And I've got some local backers who obviously they made my racing possible here, as well as going over to TT in Wiesenhof from Linksfield Terrace. Okay. You know, in Minopex and that. And alongside all of that, I've got a bit of a riding academy. You know,
stunning.
That I look after two little youngsters on 150s that we take to the northern regions racing and that. So I'm riding there myself, as well as helping the youngsters, because, you know, when I was a lot younger, I looked up at Russell Wood and, you know, Roosh and all those guys, and it was always me and my dad racing, you know, but we didn't have the big Subak riders that you look up to come and help you. So to be involved with the kids, and it's a good laugh, you know, it's good to see the kids doing what they're doing, and the passion, you know, and so I'm racing that year. So that's the regionals, the nationals, and then we've also got involved through Red Star Raceway in a legend car, you know, racing a car. So we've got 3 cars running in that, which is a bit of fun and very good for Red Star, and then the local racing. So there's a mixture of all different things. The end of the year, we also, AJ Venter Racing is planning on going to Macau, the Macau Grand Prix, which I went to last year for the first time, which is also
street circuit craziness
through the city, and so there's lots happening, all racing related.
I think what is amazing, Allan-Jon, is that you giving back so much from the stuff that you've also enjoyed, and I think that's so important that we, guys like you, sit there and say, I'm having a good time. I'm doing TTs, etc. I'm focused on different kinds of things, but you're looking after young kids in 150s. You're going car racing. You're trying to just promote the talent that we have in this country, because we do have great talent.
Yeah, we do, Sasha, and it's a bit of a sad thing at the minute. Racing's taken a knock over the last 2 or 3 years in South Africa, where
That's for sure.
the grids have got a little bit thin, and it's a shame, because I look at my passion in racing. I always wanted to go abroad, and I went abroad and I stayed there for 7 years.
Yeah.
And it's our future of racing in South Africa is all within the youngsters.
Exactly.
So if there's no one there to help the youngsters, Neil Herron runs a good NSF 100 academy, and those are the guys you want to bring, because in 10, 15 years time, when I'm still riding TTs, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure.
We've got, those are the guys running at the front of the nationals,
Exactly. Listen, I think listen, we all know that there are one or two little complications, but I think the whole Super GP series has got the potential to do something even bigger and better than it's doing at the moment. So, one always has to have the right ideas going forward, and also the conviction that things will come right. So, I have great faith in the future of South African motorsport. But I mean, it's up to guys like you who have achieved so much. At least someone's got someone to look up to, as opposed to just sitting and saying, "Hey, I'm going to just try and go and do it on my own." Rather go and get the expertise from the experts.
Yeah, Sasha, the big thing with the racing here in South Africa, this new Super GP, in the beginning I wanted to understand it, and I think now it is a good thing,
Yeah.
The problem with South Africa is a lot of guys don't like a change.
Exactly.
And now we've got something new, and I think over time it will grow, and so far they've failed to disappoint anyone. I think they've put on a good show.
Yes.
And we need to get a few more manufacturers involved. I mean, I'm riding a Triumph, and there's Nicole on the other Triumph, and we're the only two in the class. I think there's only 2 Yamahas and then quite a few Kawasaki's. So I'm hoping as they grow now, the fields will get a little bit bigger, and this was just a trial year for them. So
Exactly.
they'll probably look at the end of this year and think and say, right, how do we correct things to bring it all down and just improve it? And we need someone in racing in South Africa that can steer the ship to get all the politics out the way and let the guys go racing.
Yeah, listen, I mean, we could discuss that for hours and hours and hours about all of the politics involved. But I think that the model is right. It's now a question of just making sure that we do get the numbers up. And I think, there's a lot of bantering between a whole bunch of people. But I think if they get the regulations and, the statistics right, I think we've got a great future for two-wheeled circuit racing. That's for sure.
Yeah, Sasha, but I think the next thing I wanted to do is find out about this Durban street circuit, and see if we can get the bikes to have a ride around there.
Listen, anything is possible, especially with a man with your kind of knowledge now of these kind of things. I think anything is possible, and we'll definitely follow you. And if you come up with ideas and things are going to materialize, then you better come and let us know so we can let the whole of South Africa know as well.
Yeah, I know I will for sure. And then the other thing going forward, Sasha, is there's another race the guys haven't really heard of. It's called the Northwest 200.
Yes, I've heard of this.
Now, that's probably the next one on the cards now, which is in, I think it's end of April. Yeah, it's end of April. It's just before the TT. And you can use that as almost a shakedown, to the TT.
Yeah.
So there's a full calendar of road racing. It's just getting the right package together to go and do it.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's all very, very exciting. It's brilliant, brilliant stuff. Allan-Jon, it's great to have you here in the studio. Thanks very much for coming and giving us the incredible insights into what it takes to race in the TT. And, well, listen, we'll be following you. We'll definitely have you back in the studio again. Wish you well with the youngsters that you're training and all of your other projects that you're involved with. And, keep the flag flying and make sure we get more and more people into motor racing.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Balls.co.za